Thank you, Dr. Wankhede. Am I audible clearly?
Yes, sir. Yes, it is audible, sir.
So thank you, Dr. Wankhede, for the kind introduction. In yesterday's session, a very interesting session by Dr. Shashikan, Mr. Sam, and of course Dr. Wankhede. We learned about IoT. What is IoT? What are the protocols and what are the different standards for IoT? Today, I will be discussing about one of the application of IoT in the field of agriculture. And I will be discussing this with the help of one of the concepts which we have floated. Its name is resource to root. So what is this resource to root is and why we need? Before that, let us try to understand why we need this resource to root, why there is a requirement for having a concept like resource to root. So let us try to understand what is the present agriculture scenario. Agriculture sector today present or faces lot of like diversities or disruptions from various aspects. Some of them are mentioned here. One of them is land degradation. So land, due to overuse of fertilizers, overuse of water application, is degrading day by day. Is not getting fertile day by day. Take an example of Punjab. Punjab once upon a time was flourished area, having canal irrigated area, and water was abundant in availability. But now, due to over irrigation or due to seepages and from the canal, large chunk of this state is now with the degraded land or the barren land, and agriculture can be difficult day by day. Like it is said that if there is a desert is not in Rajasthan, it is there in Punjab or even in Maharashtra. Maharashtra is also facing similar issues. Then another issue is loss of agricultural land to urbanization. Everyone knows this. Like even in the villages nowadays and in the cities, the peri-urban areas are now getting converted to non-agriculture land. So because farmer is suffering, he wants to get or earn money in an easy way. So rather than going for getting into the agriculture business, he wants to convert this into non-agricultural land and sell it out. Water shortage is, of course, is one of the known problem, and water pollution is also one of the major problem from last few decades India is observing. Irrigation problems there are, and we will be discussing in details about irrigation issues which we faces. Climate change, I don't need to comment much. We are all facing the issues with the climate change. Shortage of arable land. Like arable land is now non-agriculture conversion into non-agriculture land is one of the reasons, but another is fragmentation of the land. Farmers do not want to go for edible crops. They want to go for non-edible crops like cash crop like cotton. You cannot eat cotton, but still farmer wants to go with the cotton. So there will be a food shortage if farmers or agriculture sector continuously focused on non-edible crops. So these are some of the issues which like agriculture sector is presenting. There are this slide probably you may be aware about, but I just wanted to focus more on the water availability in India. Like 4% of the water of the world's total fresh water source, 4% is available in India. Now, our population is almost 17.7% or almost 18% of the world's population. So with the 4% water, we have to, this 4% of the water is to be utilized for this 18% of the population. And that is quite disproportionate. So we need to utilize this available water judiciously, optimally. And how to do that? And who are the users of this water sectors? If you look at this slide, irrigation is one of the major user of the water sector. Drinking water is user. Industry is the user. Energy. So the available utilizable water in our country is 1123 billion cubic meter. So this is what the water which will be available for us at any point of time. And if you look at the utilization, if you take at this 2025 scenario, 611 billion cubic meter is utilized by, so maximum utilization is by the irrigation sector, and there are some utilizations by industry and drinking water. Now if you can save even 10% of this, still you can overcome the issues. Like it is envisaged that in 2050, if you go in 2050, the irrigation sector utilization will be 807 billion cubic meter, even after taking the measures of like drip irrigation and all other advanced irrigation practices. And there will be a deficit of 57 billion cubic meter. Now, how to fulfill this deficit? So there is no way rather than to saving the water. Of course, you need to save water in all the other sectors as well. Like you need to, if you are drinking water, you need to save in the drinking water utilization in industries also to be saved. But major chunk is still more than 70% is still with the irrigation water. So even if you save 10% of this irrigation water, that is almost around 40 billion cubic meters, still you can fulfill the deficit, which is 57 billion cubic meter of water easily. But then how to do that? There is a survey, like if you look at the agricultural sector, what impacts the farmer's income the most? If you look at the farmer's activity, broadly classify the farming activity, there is planning and financial management which farmer has to do. Cultivation he has to of course do, and then storage and selling and distribution is one of the activity. This post harvest management is one of the activity he has to do. So 20% of his income will be affected by crop selection, proper selection of the seeds, proper selection of the crop. His income is affected 20%. So 20% income is affected by availability of financial availability like loan, insurance, and finance, proper finance. 42% income is affected by proper water management. So if he can manage the water properly, or if he has the availability of water, then there is always a chance that his income will increase by 42%. So major chunk is in water management only. Soil health is one other factor. Then of course pest and disease management is also the factor which will affect his income. Then if he is going into the livestock management, cattle health and all other things, so will not go into the livestock at this moment. But then market linkages, proper selling of the product is also affecting his income, because now we are discussing with the new farm bill, which is allowing the farmers to sell his produce anywhere. So that is one of the advantage probably will be, or the farmer will be getting with the new farm bill. He can get the chance to increase his income by proper market linkages. But then at the same time, he should be aware, he should be literate enough to know about the market rates available, when to sell his product, how much time to keep, when will be the peak market demands for the product. So these are the areas. So if we look at this 42%, that is the major chunk which is due to the water management. So we need to focus on the proper water management in the farm sector. So why this water management is so important? Because when you apply water, the water is to be utilized by your plant roots, and if it is to be utilized by efficiently utilized this water, then the conveyance efficiency, when water is brought in from the source to his plant or to his field, shall be good enough. Then the flow, like if you look at this irrigation, different irrigation methods. So there is a flood irrigation method, which is a very conventional irrigation method, in which you get only 35 to 40% of the efficiency. Whereas if you look at the drip irrigation, you get around 90% of the efficiency. And if you look at the sprinkler irrigation methods, it is only 70 to 75% of the efficiency. So where this the water losses, like if you look at the 30 to 40%, where the other losses are, the major losses are in the seepage and deep percolation, when the water is brought in or when the water is traveling through the field channels in his field. There are seepage losses or deep percolation losses, which counts around 40 to 45%. There are evaporation losses. When the water is flowing in an open canal, it is exposed to the 15-20% of the water is lost due to this evaporation losses. If you look at the drip irrigation scenario, 5%, because there is no open canal, water is directly reaching to the root zone. Still, there are some evaporation losses because water is applied on the surface of the soil, and then it is reaching to the root zone. So around 5% losses are there due to evaporation, and some losses are there due to deep percolation. If farmer is irrigating even 5 to 10% more amount of time, even with the drip irrigation system, there are losses. So water can go beyond the root zone, which is deep percolation. So but that counts only 5% here and 5% at the evaporation less, which is 10%, and that's why you get 90% efficiency with drip irrigation. And similarly, the case with the sprinkler irrigation, you lose some water with the evaporation and you lose some water with the deep percolation, even with the sprinkler irrigation system. Even though that amount is less as compared to the flood irrigation, still with the sprinkler you get around 70 to 75% of the water application efficiency. So there are several losses when the water is brought in from the source, from the dam to the farmer's field. There are several stages in which there are losses occurs. So there are main canals, then there is a branch canal, then there are distributaries, then there are water courses, and then there are evaporation losses. So overall, this losses counts to be 59% as per the Government of India's data. So 59% of the water is lost in conveyance only. So if 100 liter of water is released from the dam, almost 59% of the water is lost. The farmer is getting only around 40% of the 40 liters of the water. So if you look at this, then resource to root concept, what this resource to root concept is, when the water is lifted from the dam, with the conventional method, it is flowing through the canals and through the main canal, and then there are branch canals, and then there are field canals, minor canals, and then field canals. So almost 56-59% which counted here. These are the losses in the conveyance. And then the farmer may be using a drip irrigation system or a sprinkler irrigation system or a flood irrigation system. So there are several losses which are counted in this kind of irrigation system also. So if the farmer is using a canal water, right, from the dam to his field, it is reached through the open canal system, then he is getting, and if he is using a flood irrigation system, a very conventional irrigation system, only 34% is the efficiency he is getting. That means if 100 liter of water is released from this point, he is getting only 34 liters. The remaining water is lost either in conveyance, either in evaporation. But then if rather than using the field canals, if the pipeline is connected at the field at the minor canal levels, then his efficiency is little bit increased. And so if you take at this case, if the water is directly lifted from the dam, bring in from through the pipeline and used through a drip irrigation system, then he will get around 89% of the efficiency. So you can compare 34% to 89%. So only 10 to 11% of the water is lost in this case, and that is very natural because some water losses will be there, because when water is opened up on the surface, there will be a loss. There are chances of losses. But then, is it possible to have this resource to root concept everywhere in the country? If you look at the water policy of the Government of India, they have targeted to achieve 55% of the water use efficiency by year 2025. Now, when you can achieve 89% of the efficiency, why we are targeting on 55% of the efficiency? Because now the infrastructure is already available. You cannot really, take out the main canals which are already, government has spent money and they have done this. They cannot really change all these things in pipe network or because then that will be an expensive affair. So there can be an intermediate interference or which you can bring in, like after main canal you can go for pipe distribution network, wherein you can go for up to 77% of the efficiency, or after distributed canal you can go for pipe data network, wherein you can achieve the efficiency of 68%. So on an average, you can probably achieve around 55 to 60% of efficiency looking at all these interventions. But then the resource to root concept talks about taking the water from the resource, not allowing it to seep or leakage or evaporate anywhere, bringing it through the pipeline, bringing it to the farmer's field, and delivering that water through drip irrigation system directly to the root zone of the crop. So that is what the concept resource to root is. Now, what are the benefits of resource to root concept? If you look at this table, and I will just explain that this blue color stands for water productivity in kilogram per meter cube and value creation in rupees per meter cube. See, till this day, farmer talks about the yield in kilogram per hectare or quintal per hectare. If you ask a farmer that how much cotton he has, got from his field, he will say, "Sir, 20 quintal in 5 hectares of land." So that is quintal per hectare. He is still not talking about how much water is applied and how much yield is with respect to the application of water. But now this is the time we need to talk about, or we need to change this terminology, because even if he got 1,000 hectares of land and there is no water available, this 1,000 hectare is unvain, like it is of no use. So we need to talk about the water productivity in kilogram yield cube of water. And if you look at this table, this is where the conventional system is, wherein you got the 34% of the efficiency. You got 1.86%. We have divided this table in cash crop and food grain crops. Of course, we all know that food grain crops has got less value as compared to the cash crops. So with cash crops, your water productivity is 1.86 kilogram per meter cube, and whereas your value creation in rupees is 12.15 rupees per meter cube of water. Wherein, if you go to the extreme case, wherein complete network from resource to root is pipeline network, your water productivity is increased to 8.26 kilogram per meter cube. So from 1.86 or almost 2 kilogram per meter cube to almost 8 kilogram per meter cube, you can say almost 4 times or 5 times. And again, the value creation in terms of rupees, because ultimately farmer wants to understand how much is his income as compared to the water he has spent or water he has utilized. So that is 54 rupees per cubic meter. So right from 12 rupees to 54 rupees, again almost 4 times increase in his income as compared to the per meter utilization of the water. And similar is the case for the food grains. So let us look at this different benefits of resource to root concept, and then I will come to the utilization of IoT in this resource to root concept. So when you utilize, or when a farmer or when the government adopts this resource to root concept, he is assuring higher income to the farmers, because now farmer is using the advanced irrigation system. His yield, which will help him to increase the yield, which will help him to get the better quality of the yield, and which will assure him to get better income. Then there is a pipeline network which has, as compared to the canal, because canal always faces the problems of breaches and breakages and damages and water thefting. So as compared to that, you get better life with the pipeline network. The pipes which are used in this system they have the life of more than 100 plus years. Then water productivity, as we talked about, is also increased almost 5 times. Then it is allowing the farmer to go for high value crops, because he's getting water in his field, which is allowing him to take the decision to go for cash crops or high value crops to increase his income, and which results in sustainability, and which assures water, energy, and food security for the nation. There are some technical benefits which you get with this resource to root concept. Daily irrigation schedules can be managed very well, because with the conventional canal irrigation system, it is a rotational water supply. So canal will be open up for 15 days, then farmer needs to store the water. Farmer cannot store the water in his field. Either they put the water in the well, whatever the amount of water is stored, if water is deep percolated or meets to the groundwater, is gone off. So, but they get in rotational conventional canal operated system, in rotational water supply system, they get water for a specific days available. But then with the pipeline network, even daily irrigation is possible. So he can meet the crop requirement. It will not be a case that for a particular days, farmer is over irrigating and putting a lot of water, and then for next 15 days or 1 month, there is no water in his field. That will not be the case. Then precise application of fertilizer and nutrient. That is one of the major advantage you get with this advanced irrigation system, maybe sprinkler or drip. You can apply fertilizers to the plant directly through this system. So that is the advantage you get with this resource to root or pipeline distribution network. suitable for undulating terrain. Canal can go only on the level land or a given quantity of slope only. You cannot, if there is an undulating land, you cannot dig a canal there. But pipeline can be, you can take the pipeline even through the undulating land. So that is the advantage you get. And then major advantage or benefit you get the equitable distribution of water. Today, if you look at the canal irrigation scenario, everybody knows that tailenders do not get water because either the water is low in quantity due to the losses, or the front enders, they put the electrical motors and anything, and they try to take out the water. So the tailenders do not get the water. But here with the pipeline distribution network, you get equitable quantity of water as per the crop water requirement in this field, and that is why the water use efficiency is also increased up to 95% here. There are some social benefits you get with this pipeline distribution network or resource to root concept. There is no land acquisition because the pipe is underground, so farmer can still utilize the land for his cropping. In canal network, he has to give his land, so that becomes a major issue in canal and network areas, because farmer has to sacrifice his land, and then rehabilitation becomes an social issue. So you get a social justice for the stakeholders, for the users, for the beneficiaries. Then there are environmental benefits you get with this resource to root concept, because there is no water now. Water is only applied to the root zone, so there is no land degradation, no leaching. Otherwise, the land is degrading, or health hazards are due to the leaching of water. Then you can maintain the soil health. You are saving the energy. You are not utilizing the pumping cost and pumping energy continuously. Reducing greenhouse gases emission, because when you flood water, the standing water is the main reason for greenhouse gas emission, and you are avoiding the standing water with this resource to root concept, and that is why you are reducing the greenhouse gas emission, and that's the way you are saving or conserving the natural resources, and that is how you are achieving the more crop per drop. That is what the motto of Government of India has given, that they want to achieve this more crop per drop. Now, Government of India has come up with some new schemes under the Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana. There is a scheme called Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana. Under this scheme, this more crop per drop is one of the scheme, wherein the farmers are incentivized to go for micro irrigation system to save water. And there is another scheme which is called as Har Khet Ko Pani. Every field shall get the water. So in this scheme, all the lift irrigation schemes or this pipeline distribution network scheme are to be engaged with advanced drip irrigation or sprinkler irrigation systems only. So these are the schemes which rather Government of India has targeted for doubling the farmers' income project. In 2022, by 2022, they want to achieve, or they want to double the farmers' income. Now, this is an Hercules task. How do you really think that farmers' income will be doubled in next 2-3 years time? This is definitely an Hercules task. This is a very difficult task. But then, what are the methods? What are the ways to do this? And that is why Government of India has undertaken several projects. They are converting the dam irrigation projects, which are conventionally, there are several dams across the country, major dams, minor dams, and government now converting these dams into the pipeline distribution network at various interventions level. As sometimes at main canal, even main canal is getting replaced. At some places, branch canals are getting replaced. At some places, distributaries are getting replaced with the pipeline distribution network. And that is how Government of India wants to achieve the water or maximize the water use efficiency, and wants to achieve the doubling of farmers' income. I will try to explain one of the use case study, wherein this resource to root concept is adopted very successfully. This is called as Ramthal irrigation project. So Ramthal is the place, name of the place. It's in Hungun Taluk of Bagalkot district of Karnataka, wherein the water is from the Narayan Sagar reservoir. There is a Krishna river flowing in. There is a Narayan Sagar reservoir. From this reservoir, the water is lifted and directly applied to the root zone through drip irrigation system. So at this moment, this is the world's largest community-based. So there is a community farming community involved, community-based micro irrigation system or project. I will explain this project, but what is the necessary? When this project was designed, initially it was designed with the canal distribution network, the conventional system, and with the canal distribution network, the command area was almost around 12,000 hectares. And with the intervention of drip irrigation system and pipeline distribution network, the command area is increased to 25,000 hectares. So you can imagine almost double, more than double, the command area is doubled. So that is one of the benefit. You know why government wants to invest money? Because they want to reach to even the smallest stakeholders. You know, they want to reach to each and every person or citizen or the farmers. So with this increase in command area, they are now trying to give the benefit of this water to larger area, larger people. So instead of like earlier, the scheme beneficiaries were only 3,500 farmers. And now the scheme benefit, earlier the scheme beneficiaries were 7,000 farmers, and now the scheme beneficiaries are almost around 14,000 farmers, more than 14,000 farmers. So almost double. So what is the feature? I will just explain the features of this Ramthal project, which is resource to root project. So total project area was 24,000 hectare. It is divided into two parts, and Jain Irrigation has done almost the major part of it, which is 12,300 hectare. The cost of the project is almost 800 crores, and Jain Irrigation has spent almost 400 crores. Government has spent on this project on Jain's part is 400 crores. The farmer in this project, the farmer is getting a wall in his field, which is automatically operated wall or hydraulically operated wall, where IoT comes into the picture. This entire system is a web-based, fully automated system in which the entire area of this 12,300 hectare is controlled and monitored, centralized. So there is a centralized pumping. This is one of the advantage, you know, because otherwise every farmer has its own source of water, like open well or bore well. Instead of that, there is a centralized pumping system, and because the pumping is centralized, government is assuring a 24 hours electrical feeder supply to this scheme. Otherwise, availability of electricity is a major issue in the agriculture area. If you look at, if you go around, if you go in the agriculture area, they get hardly 6 to 8 hours of electricity in a day, and they have to manage their irrigation within these 6 to 8 hours only. But with this resource to road project, it is 24 hours available. Government has assured 24 hours of electrical supply and centralized pumping. So from one source only, the water is pumped out, reaching to the farmer's field. So there are water user association. That is one of the major features, because you know government wants to go for public-private partnership models everywhere. So a water user farmers group, which is called as water user association, is built in, and then a company like Jain Irrigation is training them, giving them knowledge about. Otherwise, you know, these are the farmers in the drought-prone area, and who bothers to reach to these farmers? Even government agricultural universities also do not reach to these farmers. But with this kind of projects, so with this kind of interventions, now expert agronomical people or expert in irrigation and other sectors are reaching to these people, trying to build up their capacity, train them, and also providing the post-harvest linkage. That is one of the beauty of this project. Like farmer can produce, and with the help of this resource to root concept, probably his yield will increase. You will get better yields. But then farmer do not know where to sell this product. So it becomes the responsibility of the contractor or the bidder as a part like Jain Irrigation to have the market linkages of his produce. So we go around, we talk to the processors, food processors, and we bring them there, and we become a nodal agency so that farmer can sell his product at a higher price. Let me give some technical explanation of this project. This entire area of 12,300 hectare is divided into 4 zones. So 4 zones according to the topographical conditions of this area, and the 4 pipelines goes into this system, each pipeline for every zone, and then there are some branch pipeline, and this entire area is divided into 100 hectares of blocks, and there are 129 such blocks. So each block is 100 hectare, So within 100 hectares, there are around 20-25 farmers depending on his farm holding or land holding. So these 20-25 farmers will get wall in their field. So these walls are connected through the pipeline network to the branches, and these branches are connected to the main rising main, and there is a pumping station through which water is fed to the system. So this is how the entire system's schematic is. So there are four central. I talked about centralized pumping system. So there are, for these 4 zones, there are 4 pumping stations. Each pumping station has got 3 pumps, and then there are primary filters, because water is carried through the reservoir, so it may be carrying some silt, sand, some trash, garbage. So it has to be removed out while it is getting provided to the drip irrigation system, because drip irrigation system is sensitive for clogging. So water is to be filtered properly. So we are providing some primary filters at this location, and so which will filter out the major contaminations out of the water. And then there are pressure and flow transmitters of the sensors provided here, which are connected to the IoT system through the IoT to the central unit. And all these pumps are variable frequency drive pumps operated on the basis of the feedback they are receiving from the pressure transmitters. In this system, there are 4 pumping stations I talked about. All the pumping stations are VFD or variable frequency drive pumping station. And all this entire system is controlled through a software platform which we have created. Its name is Jain Irricare. Then there are primary filters I talked about, and there are secondary filters in the 100 hectares of block, so that water when traveled through, it may accumulate some more contamination. So that contamination is also filtered out when it enters into the block. So secondary filters are also provided. And very important is there are sensors provided. At the pump station, there are pressure transmitters, there are flow transmitters, there are level transmitters, there are differential pressure transmitters or the switches, which will tell you that when to flush the filters and all. So these sensors are continuously feeding or providing their data to the Irricare system, and then ultimately through Irricare systems, we are trying to control the pumping operations in this for these schemes. There are several sensors we provided in the farm area also. So I talked about 100 hectares of block. So each block has one digital water meter, pressure transmitter. There are rain sensors provided in like common for 4 blocks for 400 hectares area, one rain sensor, and there is one weather station provided. So we are getting data from rain sensors, because rain is quite localized. If you look at this scenario, sometimes it rains in your area and it don't rain just few meters or 1 kilometer away. So we need to have localized data of the rain, so that we can control the operation of irrigation system, because whenever there is a raining condition, you don't need to operate your irrigation system. So rain sensors are provided. Pressure transmitters and digital flow meters are provided, which will provide or give the data of flow and pressure continuously at the entrance of the block system. And then there are control walls. There are almost 7,400 farmers. Every farmer has got one wall. So there are 7,400 walls to be operated in this system. So you can guess the massiveness of the system, how massive it is. 12,300 hectares of area, 33 villages covering in this area, 7,400 farmers. So every farmer's irrigation system is to be managed using this walls. So we have provided, there are for the IoT application, there are master stations and several slaves, which we called as RTU, remote terminal units. So there are 22 master stations in this entire 12,300 hectares of area, which has got GSM and RF communication facilities. I will be talking about this. And then there are several RTUs. So one master station or base station, we call it as, can control around 100 RTUs. So there are 100 RTUs controlled by this one base station. There are different types of RTUs, and these RTUs are communicating to the base station through wireless radio frequency. And I will be discussing about this. So this is how the RTU looks like. So before going for the IoT based irrigation application, and how the IoT is playing major role in controlling and managing and monitoring this large area or large community based irrigation system, I would like to just play a small video which will explain you the concept of resource to root, the benefits, everything in nutshell. So let us see this video, resource to root.
Sir, the video audio is not clear, sir. We are not getting audio. Sir, the audio, we are not getting the audio.
Okay. Just a minute.
Resource to root. Welcome to the world's largest integrated micro irrigation project, Ramthal Lift Irrigation Scheme. Located at Hungund Taluk, Bagalkot district of Karnataka, Ramthal project is initiated by Krishna Bhagya Jal Nigam Limited. The entire project is conceptualized on a revolutionary concept of resource to root. Hungund Taluk falls under the drought-prone zone of the state. Farmlands are literally starving for water. Farmers mainly grow rain-fed crops like gram, sorghum, chili. Thanks to the efforts taken by the government of Karnataka to alleviate the sufferings of farmers' life by initiating Ramthal Marol Lift Irrigation Project.
It was decided to bifurcate the area into East Main Canal. The east area was planned to provide 12,300 hectares. Ulugund area was brought under distribution. The east side area was awarded to Mrs. Jain Irrigation Limited. The Jain Irrigation, who are the pioneers in micro irrigation, had started the work initially, giving the details of the bulk water supply as well as the design details of the laterals and other mains and submains.
Ramthal is a path-breaking community irrigation project and is one of its kind not only in India but in the world. Beneficiary farmers are getting multifold benefits like doubling income and higher profits, assured irrigation for 2 crop seasons, can grow cash crops, reduction in fertilizers and agricultural inputs, improvement in soil health, expert agronomical advice at their doorstep, market linkage and better price for produce. In a nutshell, Ramthal project will make agriculture sustainable and will bring prosperity for the beneficiary farmers. Government of Karnataka also benefited in many ways like increase in water use efficiency over 85% as compared to 35%, doubling the irrigable area with available water. The productivity per cubic meter of water applied is increased to 1.41 kilogram per cubic meter as compared to 0.28 kilogram per cubic meter in traditional canal irrigated projects. Equitable distribution of available water, energy savings up to 50%, minimum land acquisition and rehabilitation expenses, reduced implementation time, stopped migration of farmers and farm laborers, overall increase in irrigated land, increased cropping intensity resulting in higher agri-production, being a public-private partnership model, effective and reliable performance, higher contribution to the exchequer.
ಮೊದಲಿನಿತ್ತು ಮಳೆ ಒಂದು ಸೈಡ್ ಮಳೆ ಆದರೆ ಒಂದು ಸೈಡ್ ಮಳೆ ಆಗ್ತಿರಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಇದಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ನಮ್ಮ ರೈತ ಇಲ್ಲ ರಾಮುಡಿ ಗ್ರಾಮದ ಎಲ್ಲ ರೈತರು ಯುವಕರು ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ದುಡಿಯೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಗೋವಾ ಬೆಂಗಳೂರು ಈ ತರ ಎಲ್ಲ ಬೇರೆ ರಾಜ್ಯಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು. ಆದ ಕಾರಣದಿಂದ ಈಗ ಇದು ಬಂದಿರತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು ಬಹಳ ಒಳ್ಳೆಯದು. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಇಲ್ಲೇ ನಾವು ಈಗ ನಮ್ಮ ಊರಲ್ಲಿ ಒಬ್ಬ ರೈತರು 10 ಎಕರೆ ಒಳಗೊಂಡ ರೈತರಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಇಲ್ಲೇ ಈಗ ಹನಿ ನೀರಾವರಿ ವ್ಯವಸ್ಥೆ ಬಂದಿರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಇದನ್ನೇ ನಾವು ಚಲೋತ್ನಾಗ ಒಳ್ಳೆ ರೀತಿಯಿಂದ ನಡೆಸಿಕೊಂಡು ಹೋದ್ರೆ ಚಲೋ ಆಗಬಹುದು, ಮುಂದೆ ಬರಬಹುದು.
12,300 hectare area of Ramthal East package is conceptualized, designed, executed, commissioned, operationalized and maintained by Jain Irrigation Systems Limited. The project is designed with energy efficient optimization. The entire command area is divided into 4 zones. Each of these zones are then subdivided into operational blocks of approximately 100 hectare. There are 129 blocks in the entire 12,300 hectare area of East Part. Water from River Krishna is lifted from Narayanpur Reservoir to Stage 1 and flowed to Stage 2. Then from Stage 2 of West Main Canal to the sump of Ramthal Drip Irrigation Project. At the sump, water is pre-filtered through advanced Rotoclean suction filter to prevent large debris coming to the pumping machinery. Each zone has its own pumping station. There are 12 energy-efficient pumps. All pumps are operated through a variable frequency drive or VFD. Advanced SCADA system controls the operation of pumps on the basis of feedback received from pressure and flow sensors. Water is further filtered through state-of-the-art, fully automatic, online, smart, clean electric filters. Its high-quality quadra-layer stainless steel screen filters out the dirt, sand and soil particles. The smart clean mechanism of the filter automatically cleans the filter element. The filtered water further flows through high-capacity, high-strength HDPE pipe rising main. These pipes have an estimated life of 100 years. They can withstand abusive field conditions and are easy to repair and maintain. Water then enters the block of 100 hectare, where it is again filtered through fully automatic, hydraulically operated online smart clean hydraulic filter to ensure that only clean water enters the drip irrigation system. At the block entrance, pressure and flow is regulated through a pressure reducing and flow limiting valve. A pressure transmitter is used to monitor pressure fluctuations within the block. Ramthal project is operated in the most farmer-friendly manner. Every farmer in the project area is separately allotted a wireless controlled automatic valve to operate the irrigation system of his farm. A fertigation unit is provided to inject required quantity of fertilizers directly to plant root zone. Every farm is provided with Jain Irrigation's most popular 5-star rated drip line. Its state-of-the-art clog-resistant dripper design provides maximum uniformity and efficient performance for years. The system is designed to produce an application rate of 2.4 mm per day in Kharif season and 4 mm per day in Rabi season, with around 24 hours of operation per day. Operation of such complex system is controlled and monitored through highly sophisticated web-based IrriCare irrigation management system. Every user can access and monitor the operation of his irrigation system through the internet. Valve operation schedules are uploaded to IrriCare software. These schedules are then transferred to master controller called as IrriConnect Master through GSM communications. IrriConnect Master distributes schedules to each wireless remote terminal unit called IrriConnect Pro. IrriConnect Pro stores the schedules and operates the field control valves. IrriCare Master has got an excellent user management facility. All the registered users receive an SMS alert for their valve on-off schedule. The user database can be easily generated and filtered according to crop growth stage, and area under each crop. IrriCare also facilitates expert agronomists to broadcast bulk messages to the farmer having specific crop regarding crop care and pest or fertilizer management.
ಕೃಷಿ ತಾಂತ್ರಿಕತೆಯನ್ನು ನೀರಿನ ಬಳಕೆಯನ್ನು ಯಾವ ರೀತಿ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ನೀರು ಯಾವ ರೀತಿ ನಾವು ಉಪಯೋಗ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನು ತಿಳುವಳಿಕೆ ಕೊಟ್ಟು ಪ್ರತಿಯೊಂದು ರೈತನ ಹೊಲದೊಳಗೆ ಆಟೋಮೇಷನ್ ಮಷಿನ್ ಕೊಡ್ತಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಒಂದು ಇದು ಮೇಲೆ ಸ್ಯಾಟಲೈಟ್ ಮುಖಾಂತರ ಒಂದು ಆಟೋಮೇಷನ್ ವಾಲ್ ಅಂತ ಕೊಡ್ತಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಆ ವಾಲ್ ಹೆಂಗೆ ಆಪ್ರೇಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಯಾವ ಥರ ಮೆಸೇಜ್ ಬರ್ತಾವೆ, ಅವ್ನು ಹೆಂಗೆ ಅದನ್ನು ಹೆಂಗೆ ಬರ್ತಾವೆ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನು ನಮ್ಮ ಮೊಬೈಲ್ಗೆ ಈ ಥರ ಪ್ರತಿ ದಿವಸ ನಿಮಗೆ ನೀರು ಎಷ್ಟು ಗಂಟೆ ಬರ್ತೈತೆ, ಎಷ್ಟೊತ್ತಿ ನಿಮ್ಮ ವಾಲ್ ಚಾಲು ಇಡಬೇಕು, ನಿಮಗೆ ಮ್ಯಾನ್ಯುವಲ್ ವಾಲ್ ಅಂತ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಆಟೋಮೇಷನ್ ವಾಲ್ ಇದೆ. ಆಟೋಮೇಷನ್ ವಾಲ್ ಯಾವಾಗ ಚಾಲು ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಮೆಸೇಜ್ ಬರ್ತದೆ. ಆ ಮೆಸೇಜ್ ಬಂದ ತಕ್ಷಣ ನಾವು ವಾಲ್ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಂಡು ನಮ್ಗೆ ಆಟೋಮೆಟಿಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಹೊಲಕ್ಕೆ ನೀರು ಹರಿಸ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿಕ್ಕೆ ಅವಕಾಶ. ಇದರಿಂದ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ನಮ್ಮ ಸಮಯ ಮತ್ತು ಆಳಿನ ಖರ್ಚು ಉಳಿತೈತಿ.
ನಮ್ಗೆ ಬೇಕಾದಾಗ ನೀರುಗಳನ್ನ ನಾವು ತೆಗೆದುಕೊಳ್ಳೋಕಾಗತ್ತ. ಆಮೇಲೆ ತರಕಾರಿಗಳಿಗೆ ಯಾವಾಗ ನೀರು ಬೇಕು ಅವಾಗೇ ನಾವು ಹಾಕಿಸ್ಕೋಬೇಕಾಗತ್ತ. ಮಳೆ ಅಂದ್ರ ಮಳೆ ಮೇಲೆ ನಾವು ಆಧಾರಿತ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಕುಂತೀವಂದ್ರ ನಾವು ಇವತ್ತಿನ ಕಾಲದಾಗ ಇಡೀ ನಮ್ಮ ತಾಲೂಕಿನ ಜನನ ಬೇರೆ ಕಡೆ ಹೋಗಿ ನಾವು ಜೀವನವನ್ನು ಸಾಗಿಸುವಂತ ಪರಿಸ್ಥಿತಿ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಅದಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ಈಗ ಇವರೆಲ್ಲ ಜೈನ್ ಕಂಪನಿಯವರದು ಸಾಕಷ್ಟು ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದಾರೆ.
Beneficiary farmers are associated with a controlling body called Water User Association. Water User Association helps farmers to resolve their day-to-day issues and will control and operate the entire project. There are 28 active water user associations formed in east part of Ramthal project. Jain Irrigation Systems is providing training to each member of the Water User Association. Jain Irrigation is also helping the Water User Association to get proper market linkages for crops produced by the farmers. Our expert team of agronomists is imparting crop-related training to the farmers. Farmers are also trained for operation and maintenance of drip irrigation system. Ramthal Irrigation Project is showcasing the sustainable farming effort to achieve water and food security for the nation and promises more crop per drop. Jain Irrigation is proud to be a part of this project. Jain Irrigation Systems Limited, an integrated irrigation solutions provider.
So I hope this concept of resource to root is quite clear to you. So let us talk about the IoT solutions which we have adopted in bringing such a large area under irrigation and control and monitoring. So first thing is like why we need automation for such a large irrigation project, because it's a 12,000 hectares of huge control in huge land, more than 7,500 walls to be operated. Every farmer has got his own control, and then the system is in operation for 24 hours. So some farmer will get water in the night time, some farmer will get daytime. So you need to stagger the schedule so that one farmer who gets the water in the night time shall get in daytime next week. Then there is a requirement of trend analysis and report generation, that how the pressure fluctuations were in this system, because it's a large area. Almost there are 150 pressure sensors, 150 flow sensors. You need to monitor each and every because if one area is closed down, there the pressure will increase in other side. So that is to be monitored. Trend analysis is to be done. The fault is to be instantly reported and controlled. So there are the challenges where we required one. That is why we required to have an automated irrigation system or an IoT-based automated irrigation system. So what are the challenges which we were having while executing this project? Wiring is not possible. You cannot run the wire throughout the field and connect the walls using the wires. There is no electricity available in this entire area of 12,300 hectares. Line of sight, which is very important for radio communication, is not possible because the area is undulating. So there is no clear line of sight. Then there was a requirement from the government side to have a centralized operation and control of the system. So that is what the remote monitoring and control system was required there, and these were the challenges. Now, how we overcome this? Because there was a requirement of very high-tech solution, which was internet-based or web-based irrigation application. Now, when we talk about the radio communication and RTUs, yesterday I think Sam Koshi was talking about this star topology and mesh topology. So we have adopted mesh topology. We have not adopted star topology in this project. When we say star topology, it means that from one point, it is called as peer-to-peer communication, one point to another point only. So like if B is the base station, then it is communicating with 1, 2, 3, 4 only. But they are not 1, 2, 3, 4 RTUs are not communicating with each other. And if some node is out of the range, it is not in communication with the base station. But with mesh topology, all the RTUs will talk to each other, like they are in communication with each other. So with mesh topology, you can increase the coverage, like the RTUs which were not in the signal strength or the in the range, they are also coming in the range with the mesh topology, because now these RTUs are communicating through this RTU number 4 to the base station. But then with mesh topology, because you need to keep them wake up all the time, all these RTUs, the power requirement becomes an issue. And you know, and yesterday also Sam discussed, even Dr. Shashikant also talked about it, that power is a major hurdle in IoT based, agriculture, because in agriculture area there is no power available, and then to operate the sensors, to get the data, to control the walls, to do the communication, you require power. So we come up with a solar panel or solar operated external RTU. So there is a built-in solar panel. If you look at this RTU, on the top of it there is a solar panel, a 4-watt solar panel, and then we are using a long life lithium-ion battery, which gives us a minimum 3 days of autonomy. Like if there is a cloud and the solar the battery is not getting charged, still for next 3 days the system will be in operation. So we overcome this barrier by use of solar panel or solar operated remote terminal units. Let me explain you the overall architecture of the system. See, there are users. So user can be a farmer, user can be a field technician, user can be a government officer, and then there is an administration who actually is doing this programming, scheduling, monitoring, control of the system. They are connected to the server through the cloud, to the cloud server. And then there are walls in the field. There are several walls in the field, which are a group of wall is connected to one RTU. And there are several such RTUs in the field. Some sensors are also connected to these RTUs. That may be a flow sensor or a pressure sensor. And then there is a master station or a base station, which has a GSM communication. So with the GSM, it can communicate with the internet cloud. And then it has also got an RF antenna. Through RF, it is able to communicate with these RTUs in the field. So this is how the system architecture is. Now, we are using, yesterday Dr. Shashikant was talking about 2G network, and which is very cheaply available at this moment in India. And at least next 8 to 10 years, 2G is not going to vanish in India, because entire voice communication is still on 2G in India, even though the 4G and 5G are coming in now. So we are using 2G for communication, because the data packets are so small that you don't need to have a very large, like 4G size of the communication. And for RF, we are using a free band frequency 865 to 868 megahertz for RF communication, and it is through mesh topology. Now, while doing so, we realize that like every farmer is like getting a wall, and the wall-to-wall distance between, like the farm-to-farm distance is around 300, 200, 300 meters, or sometimes it is around say 60 to 80 meters. So even if you put one RTU, if you want to connect to the wall, you need to run the wires across the field. So that wiring, we want to avoid wiring at one point of time, and then we need to do the wiring into the field, because wiring through the field is a major problem, because it may get cut down. There are rats or squirrels or rodents in the field. They chew the lateral, they damage the lateral, the wirings. So these are the issues which we face. So we come up with a concept. Yesterday, Sam Koshi talked about a PICO concept. A PICO concept is like from master to slave, and then slave becomes a master for another slaves. So we come up with a in between intermediate RTU, which has capacity of 20 walls operation, 20 digital outputs. There is no input, because in field walls you don't need an input, and then several walls. There are several small RTUs we call last mile communication RTUs. Each RTU was having capacity to operate 2 walls. So it is 2 DO, we call it 2 digital output, and several such RTUs are communicating with this 20 DO, and 20 DO in turn is communicating with the master station. So like this is master and this is slave, but then this become master for these slaves. So this is what the communication methodology we also adopted in the Ramthal area. So let us talk about the products which we used here. EriConnect Master. EriConnect is the name of the base station or the master station trade name. It has got a GSM and RF communication capacity, and it has got a fuse here and various LED indications. Like one LED is for the GSM communication, one LED is for the RF indication, one is for the fault. So several indicators are there. There is no screen or anything because these are open to atmospheric conditions. So you cannot really put some LED screen or even LCD screen which will invite water to ingress into these RTUs. So these RTUs are IP65 protected. So we are trying to avoid the water ingress because these are open to atmospheric conditions, so water may get into it. So we are trying to avoid that. Then there are remote terminal units, RTUs, which are of 8 digital output or 4 digital output or 8 digital output with 4 analog and 4 digital inputs, and then 20 digital outputs as we discussed. These RTUs are programmable RTUs. And if you remember, yesterday Dr. Shashikant was talking about, having some freedom or some kind of decisions to be taken by the field devices itself. Because every time you cannot depend on the server. If there is some fault happened in the field, and if that fault is to be communicated to the server, and then at the server side some action is getting taken or is taken, there is always a chance that there is a communication breakage. Sometimes in India, it always happens that there is no communication, GSM communication between the master station and the server. So what you can do in that situation? So we have given some freedom to the RTUs. So these RTUs are programmable RTUs. There are some rules which we have generated for this. General rules like if the pressure is high, then close down the wall. If the flow is high, then close down the wall. Some autonomy is given at this end. And the schedules which are there are also transferred to this, and this RTU can store these schedules. Because if due to any reason RTU has fallen down in between, and there is no communication between the master station or the base station and the remote RTU. In that case, if the master is not able to communicate it with the RTU, still RTU has its own schedule, like it is already stored within. So the wall number 1 is to be started at 8 o'clock in the morning. Wall number 2 is to be started at say 10 o'clock in the morning. These kind of schedules for entire month or maybe for even longer period of time are stored in the RTU itself. And that is why we call them as programmable RTUs. The conventional RTUs available in the market are mostly non-programmable RTUs. They get the signal from the master station to operate or to do some action, and then only it will do. Otherwise, it will not store or do anything. And all this entire system is over the air, operative. Like if you want to upgrade the system or do some troubleshooting, but just by sitting in your place, you can do or change the settings. And then there is another product which is handheld device. So this handheld device is like a portable RTU itself. And this we have developed specifically for the troubleshooter or the field technicians. Field technician, if there are some fault occurred, wall is not operated or some wire is broken down or something happened, so field technician will go there with this handheld device, will start communicating and can operate the system for the troubleshooting for the small amount of time. So these are called handheld devices. So these are the variants or the products available in this ERI Connect system or the ERI Care, and all this then communicating with this ERI Care software. Now, while developing this hardware, radio communication is one of the major hurdle, because your number of RTU depends on what is the range you are getting in the field, how much you can communicate. So we do some validation. I'll just like to share the validation which we have done. Like this, from point A to point B, this is it is almost 1 kilometer. If you look at this is Google Earth, 1 kilometer range, and we tested it for 1 kilometer range, and it was with the 865 megahertz of the frequency, and with 100 milliwatt of the power transmission, you can easily communicate up to 1 kilometer for clear line of sight. But then what with the mesh topology, like from one RTU to another RTU? So we put them these RTUs in a path, and we try to communicate from this point 1 to the last point A1. So it is almost 6 kilometers, 6.21 kilometers. So you can communicate to the area as long as 6 kilometers, and even you can go further, but then you need to restrict yourself. As such, theoretically, with the mesh topology, you can go to any length, but then your signal strength reduces, or it depends on the number of hoppings. So we generally, in our system architecture, we have not allowed more than 2 hops. So only 2 hops are allowed. More than 2 hops we try to restrict, because otherwise then there is a lag in signal transmission and other things. Then undulation is also one of the hurdle in radio communication, because if you are not getting clear line of sight, there may be a canal flowing in between, there may be a nala in between, the river in between, some railway tracks in between. So you need to see that even after this, undulations or topographical hurdles, your RTU or the wireless communication shall be established. So those also are tested. So we thoroughly tested these RTUs for field conditions and then only implemented at the project site, at the Ramthal site. Now, for operating this kind of RTUs and sensors, and then we need to have a software. So we have generated this IRICare Global. It's a software, and I would like to just browse through this IRICare Global software. What are the features? And I'm very much proud to tell you that this system is entirely developed in-house by Jain Irrigation Systems. Because when we got this project and when we are trying to go for this automated application, we were looking at some Israeli manufacturers or some US manufacturer to get their products and to use. But then we decided at the end that we have to develop by ourselves, and all this hardware, software, everything is developed in-house by Jain Irrigation. So we already talked about the system architecture. So this is the IRICare software platform. With the IRICare software, there are several users of this software or of this entire system. A farmer, of course, is a user. Then field technician is a user. A project administrator is a user. Government officers are the user. Water user associations are also the user of this entire system. So everyone wants to know something out of this system. So the project administrator, he has the authority to do everything. Like he can view, monitor, change the schedule, change the system configuration, everything. So he can do anything in the system. He can, then there are field technicians who has got the limited authority and who can just go to the area and can do some troubleshooting operations only. Then there are government officers who wants to view only. Like government officer has no authority to change the schedule, but he can view, he can see what is happening in the field, what are the pressure, what is the flow rate, and what is the total volume of water going on through the system, because government is interested in the water utilization and the area covered. So they can see. Then there is an agronomic who can monitor the crop growth, crop stages, and can pass on some messages to the farmers. And we have used SMS method for the passing on the messages to the farmers. We are not using any advanced like data type of messages. Yesterday Dr. Shashikant was talking about using very small feature phones for this communication, like phone which is available at 1,000 or 1,500 rupees. Most of the farmer has got these feature phones. Hardly few farmers were having smartphones when we surveyed this area, and that too the smartphones were having their children were having those smartphones. So sometimes their children, their son works in Bangalore or Goa or somewhere else, so he do not have access to the smartphone, but he has the feature phone, the small phone. So we started providing messages through the SMS facility to these farmers. And of course, the farmer, the end user is the farmer, he shall also get the access. So this is how the entire architecture of the Jain IRICare platform is. So what are the advantages you get with this kind of telemetry or the web-based system is you get the control remotely. You can, through internet, you can operate. Then several sensors are connected, and you are getting real-time data for monitoring of the system, because pressure and flow rates are very important things in system operation, in irrigation system operation. So continuously, you need to continuously monitor the pressure fluctuations and the flow fluctuations in the system. If there are blockages or leakages or some damages happening, then with the pressure and flow rate, flow data only, you can recognize that this is happening in specific area. Then you are expected to multiple users are to be access to your system, so that access is possible with this internet based or web based system. So before explaining the features of this IRICare system, I'll just try to explain you the nomenclature which we have adopted. So as we explained that there are zones, and then there are several blocks within one zone, and in one block there are several walls. So each wall we call it as a sub block. So Z1, B1, S1 is the nomenclature we have adopted. to identify the wall. Like if I want to know that wall number 3 of block number 1 of zone number 1, so I can easily say that Z1, B1, then S3 is, so that is how the identification is done. And from the radio networking point of view, as we say that there are 22 networks. There are 22 networks in entire 12,300 hectares area, and each network, each master station can control about 100 RTUs. So we have given the nomenclature of N1, R1, and V1. Like N1 stands for network number. So out of 22 network, this is N1, and then RTU number 1. And in one RTU, there are several channels, output channels. So wall 1, wall 2, wall 3, wall 4. So V1, V2, V3, it represents network wise. So this Z1, B1 or ZBS format and NRV format are similar. They are related to each other. But for our understanding and for our clarity, we have adopted this kind of nomenclature. For inputs also, there is like NRA format. So A stands for analog channel. So if I have connected pressure sensor to unlimited inputs and outputs. So you can put, in one master station, you can put 100 RTUs. If you consider 8 outputs per RTU, 800 watts, and you can connect several such networks or several such master station in one system. So there is no limit for it. These RTUs are programmable, as we discussed about. And then there is a theft alarm. This actually feature we later on added, because when we observed that when RTUs are placed in the field, surprisingly, the theft started because of the solar panel and the battery inside. So someone must be clever there who knows the value of solar panel and battery. Even though the solar panel was only 4-watt solar panel, but theft cases started happening there. And even thefts were happening due to the coal, which we have utilized for the RTUs and all. So this is India. So vandalism and thefting happens here. So we have generated a system called theft alarm. So if somebody tried to cut the pole or somebody tried to damage the RTU, immediately 5 notified people will get an SMS and they can immediately rush there. So that is what the feature is, theft alarm. Then unlimited user access. So I talked about several users. So farmers, 7,400 farmers can have the access. Several government officers can have the access. Even administrator people or technicians can have the access. But then this access is limited. Like farmer, farmer will get a username and login password, but he can access to only his field. He cannot get the access to others' field, and he cannot see that what is happening to the neighbor's field. But the Water Resource Association is like a farmers group, can have access for their farmers, the farmers in their group. And field technician can go to only one typical area and get access only for a specific area. Because we are trying to avoid any kind of malpractices, like farmer se paisa le liya and okay, I will operate your wall for 1 hour more. So that malpractices are to be avoided, and that may happen in our Indian conditions. So we're trying to avoid those. So limited access, but then every user is getting access. Then the dashboard, it is a multiple screen dashboard. There are 4 major screens. So in one screen, you can see various views like map view, like a map of the area, or the walls view, like we call it as a matrix view, or you can see the pressure fluctuations and flow, or the graphs, sensor view, we call it as a sensor view, or the timeline view to see what is the schedule for which area, what is the schedule timeline. Then there are alarms where you can see the alarms or gauge pressure, or gauge pressure is like you can select 3 or 4 major important sensors which you want to continuously monitor. Those can be selected here, which you want on the dashboard itself, you can see. And then weather station or the system health can be analyzed in another screen where you can see the weather data continuously. So this is the multiple screen dashboard facility. Then project configuration, because every project of such a large project where there are almost several networks, several RTUs, several zones are there, the project configuration shall be very easy and very fluid. So we have given facility to configure the project. That's a very easy configuration, wherein you can select how many number of RTUs to be used, how many zones are there, and in which country you want to operate, because the time zone has to be changed according to country and everything. And then this is a very innovative feature of the software, global library, because say an example of pressure sensor. I want to use a pressure sensor of say 0 to 7 kilogram per centimeter square, and I want to use only this pressure sensor. But then when I go to the system configuration, I will see number of pressure sensors, maybe 0 to 10, 0 to 5, analog, digital, many things. So rather than getting all these things in drop down and selecting them and configuring each and every them, we have created a global library through which user can bring whatever the sensor he wants to utilize in his system in a local, and then he can use. So he don't need to configure each and every sensor again and again. Whatever the sensor you want to configure, they are already pre-configured and he can utilize them. Similar is the case of RTUs. If I want to use only 8 digital output RTU in my system and do not want to use other RTUs, so I will just get that RTU from global library to the local library, and I will see in the drop down only 8 DO RTU. So these are the facilities you have provided in the global library format. Then when we get the alarms, there are several levels of the alarms which you have generated. Like one alarm can be a simple alarm, like there is a pressure fluctuation, alarm is generated, but it is not so serious. So nobody wants to bother about it, because otherwise, if the alarm starts coming, after every minute you get an alarm, and then the admin really get fed up with the alarms. So we try to control those alarms. The alarms which are serious in nature will get special acknowledgements and special, like they come in and they blink. Like this phone number, they display in different color and blink, and then it is recorded as a critical event. Then sometimes you have still more serious alarm, then it blink, and again it can send some text messages to selected mobile numbers, so they can get aware that there is a pressure high in this area, or the flow is low in this area, or something like that. Or sometimes even you want to go for a voice tag, because in the night time if something has happened, these are the 24 hours operated system. In night time something has happened, nobody will look at the SMS even, and probably admin will also be in the deep sleep. So there is a voice tags given, so it will like your phone will ring, you will pick up the phone and you will listen a voice message. So these are the various levels of the alarms given in this software. There is an event logbook, so it can log the events of wall events and sensor events and various kind of events which are there, like handheld events and how many users are logged in, when we logged in. So those are the events which are very important for us to maintain. They are maintained in event logbook. And then rule setting. This is also a very important feature of the software. And from the IoT perspective also, this is very important, because sensors are sending the data continuously. Every 1 minute that the handshaking is there, and every 1 minute you are getting the data. And then suddenly you realize that there is a pressure is very high and the flow is very low. So it means when the pressure is increasing and the flow is reducing down, that means there is some blockages in the pipeline or in the distribution channel. So rather than taking action manually by someone is notified and he will take some action, you can generate some rules. Like you can generate that if this condition happens, then you close down the pump, or put up the wall, or whatever may be. There may be a damage or leakage issue. So in damage or leakage issue, if the pipeline is damaged, that means flow is high and pressure will go down. So if that condition happens, you will immediately notify, or the RTU will take the action by itself, that it will close down that wall if it is set in the rule. So this is what the rule setting. User can set rules as per his own requirements and conditions. Then manual override is also very important, because sometimes you need to suddenly do some action. So you suddenly feel that there is a damage in some area of the pipeline is leakage, and you need to close down that area. So with the help of manual override, you can close down that area. And there can be a schedule override also, because there is a maintenance schedule required for pipeline and all the other systems. So you can say after 15th of on 15th of this month, the area will be closed down. You can designate that area, and that area will have a scheduled override, and that area will be closed down for maintenance. So those kind of scheduled overrides are also possible. And then user management, this software has got a fantastic user management facilities. I was talking about farmers access, and you can tell the farmer that he can see only his field, or if he has got 2-3 fields, he can see only his 3 fields. He cannot see the neighbor's field or other field. But so those kind of user management, that accessibility, which area is assigned to the user is logged in, or when we approve the user, we allow him some specific area. Like if I allow this subblock, that is the farmer's field wall, so he can see only his block or his area and no other areas. If I want him to see the sensor, if there is a soil moisture sensor fitted in his farmer's field and he wants to see the soil moisture data in his field, I can assign that soil moisture to that farmer. But then he only can see that soil moisture data, no one else can see. Of course, the project admin can see anything, but as a user, only he can see their data. So this is kind of user management. And then another user management feature is roles and privileges. Farmer is a role. A government officer is a role. So you can allow him some privileges like view only or edit and view both. And you can allow them some privileges like he can configure, or he can do the manual loading, or he can only edit the alerts, or you can only do the user grouping. Like agronomist wants to group the users, like the farmer who are growing cotton and whose growth stage is only like 30 days. So you can group the agronomist that, but agronomists do not want to use the configuration. So for agronomist role, we can allow him only user configuration. So you can only do the user configuration. So you've got a flexibility to use this. And then, as you saw in the video, a user can get the SMS alerts. Whenever, because we talked about 24 hours of application. So some farmer will get water in the night time. Sometimes farmers will get water in the daytime. So user should be aware, because he has to do some intercultivation operation, do some fertigation or anything. So we send him the irrigation schedules in advance, like weekly irrigation schedules, and even before the wall starts, 10 minutes before the wall starts, he get an SMS alert that your wall will be starting in next 10 minutes. So if he has to do some operations, so take some care, he can do that. So those are the user, and these are all SMS based. And even agronomist, suppose agronomist wants to, agronomist cannot really communicate to 7,400 farmers physically. So what he do is, like, he groups the users, like the users who are growing cotton and having the crop growth stage of 30 days, user who are growing tomatoes and crop stage of say second growth stage, and user who are growing chilies. He can group them and he can broadcast a message. For your cotton, you have to do this kind of, you apply these fertilizers, and he can send an SMS to all the group members, like there is a possibility of heavy rains, and all this kind of SMS based communication can be done by agronomist or admin. Then flexible scheduling of you are operating walls in the farmer's field. If the farmer has already harvested the crop, or there is no crop, farmer has decided that this season I don't want to put any crop, still in general schedule his wall will be operated. So we want to avoid that. So we get the information from the farmers at the beginning of the season that you are planning for which crop, when you will be sowing this crop, what is the sowing date, what is the approximate harvesting date, and we automatically disconnect, or his wall will be opened up only after his sowing dates, or few days before the sowing dates is called as pre-irrigation. And when the harvesting dates comes closer, like 10 days before the harvesting stage, he will get a message that your wall will be closed down on this and this date. If his harvesting is delayed by due to any reason, he can ask us or request us to increase the period, or otherwise his wall will be closed down, so that we save the water unnecessarily. Undue irrigation is saved off with this kind of method. So that's kind of flexible scheduling is possible with this. So number of sequences and all these things are possible. I think I just stop here for a moment, and I will try to. Am I visible?
No, sir.
Okay. I will try to share my screen window. How to share the entire desktop? The screen one?
Yes, sir. Screen one. Yes, sir.
Can you see the screen here?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is the live site. This is actually a live project at Kaneri. Kaneri is in Sangli district. Kaneri Mutt is the name of the place, and you can see this is what the live walls are. You can see several colors of the walls. Can you see the colors here? So the green color represents that this wall, that his name is Bhanu Das and his N1 R1 V1 is the identity. His wall is already like he got the irrigation. His irrigation is done. The blue color represents that irrigation at this moment is going on. At this moment is in operation. A dark gray color is like today he got the irrigation, but it is not in operation at this moment. And the light gray, you may see, yeah, this light gray is like today there is no irrigation schedule for this. So this is what the dashboard. There are several screens, one screen, two screen, then there is other screen, and user can see like what is happening in his field, or like an admin, I can see now that these walls have already got irrigation, these walls are scheduled. Then I can go for like this is the event logbook, so several events I can see here, wall events. Then I can select the network and zone, and and then I can select some date. I'll select some approximate date here, just to show you how it operates. So you can see that on 22nd of June, this wall was off, and then when it was on, and you can filter it out that I want to see only the on status. So you will see that these walls were on. If you want to select that, I want to know that if this specific wall, when it was operated, so it was operated on 17, like 5:25 or 27 on this time. So and it is through handheld device. Some troubleshooter or field technician has gone there to operate. So this kind of information you get through this. Then there is a program setting or configuration in which you can configure the setting. Of course, this is at this moment is locked because I cannot unlock the project. This is a live project, so I will not go into the program settings. And then there are I can edit the project. If I want to configure a new project, like this is a new project, like this is a Kaneri Pani Purota Samstha, something it is address, and then so any new project I can configure in the similar manner, and then I can go for zones. How many zones are there? How many networks? How many blocks? Everything. So this is what the IRICare software is. I will again go back to the presentation. So my presentation screen is visible, no?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. So this was all about the resource to route or the IoT system which are in operation for the large community-based irrigation projects. And as I said, Government of India is adopting this methodology now, or this project approach now. There are many such projects going on across the country, and thousands of hectares of area is now under will be brought under this pipeline network at various levels. Like it may not be the main line or main canal always replaced, but sometimes branch canal or other canals. But many such projects are going on. So there is a big opportunity for IoT-based applications to be done in this area, because it's a controlled area. We know the farmers, we know the command area, we know the sensors. We can get the data from the sensors. we can analyze what is going on, which crop is farmer is sowing, how the crop growth stage is. You can provide so we can use IoT in different aspect and different manners in this kind of projects, community-based irrigation projects. So there is a big future for this kind of irrigation IoT-based application for this kind of projects. But then for the individual farmer, yesterday Dr. Shashikant was talking about like this, IoT-based solutions are costlier and may not be affordable by the small farmers. But can an individual farmer also utilize this IoT-based solution? Yes, surely. We have a system called Jain Logic. It's a platform we have created through which we collect the data like weather data, soil data, then there are crop sensor, then satellite imageries, growers data. All this data is collected, analyzed, and some insight are given to the farmers or to the end users, like about weather information, soil moisture movement, fertilizer application, sowing and harvesting information. So there are several applications or insights which will be helpful for the farmers to take the decision. It's a decision support system. So how it is done? I will just take an example. This is actually our company in United States. Its name is PureSense. How they work? They put the soil moisture sensor, a physical soil moisture sensor in the field. It's a multi-level soil moisture sensor. This soil moisture sensor sends the data to the server after every 15 minutes. So we are getting the soil moisture condition within the root zone. Now there are pressure switches provided at the irrigation wall, because why this system comes into picture, because sometimes farmers do not want to operate or get into the fully automated system because it is an expensive system. You don't want to invest, but he surely wants to understand what is going on in his field. How is when I am irrigating, say I have irrigated for 2 hours, whether that 2 hours of irrigation is enough or not enough. That probably farmer wants to understand without going into the operation of the system or control of the system. He may be having several labors to operate his system. So he gets the soil moisture sensor data. He puts the pressure switch on the pipeline. So whenever somebody opens up the wall, the pressure switch will activate and you will get the data that irrigation event is occurring, because when you open up the wall, irrigation has started. Now when the irrigation has started, now it is expected that the soil moisture level within the root zone shall change after a certain period whenever the water reaches to that field or to that plant. And then there are weather station. So weather data is also collected. Or otherwise the third party weather data is also, the APIs are shared with it, and then we get those APIs. And all this data is analyzed to get the insight that to answer the very important question, when to irrigate and how much to irrigate. So we have come up with some machine learning algorithms for this. So we collect this soil moisture data. So soil moisture change may happen due to irrigation. It may happen due to rainfall. So if you have rainfall forecasting, we can indicate the farmer that there is a rainfall possibility of this mm, say 5 mm or 10 millimeter. So your crop requires 4 millimeter of water. You should not irrigate for next week or something like that. Or if there is a rainfall possibility of say 4 millimeter only, and your water requirement is 6 millimeter, that means you have to apply only for 2 millimeter of water. Don't apply water today for 6 millimeter. So this kind of decisions can be taken by the farmers, or we can help him to take the decisions. Secondly, we analyze the trend. Like farmer has irrigated say for 2 hours or 3 hours, and then there is a soil moisture change. Change in soil moisture depends on amount of water is applied and soil type. What is the type? Because clay type of soil has got different soil moisture movement. Sandy type of soil has got different soil moisture movement, and there is an effective root zone for every crop. You don't need to irrigate entire root zone of the crop. Even if you irrigate the effective root zone, which is almost around 40 to 50% of the root zone of the crop, that is enough. So you need to monitor that effective root zone, not the entire root zone of the crop. So we try to analyze the water movement using the soil moisture. The historical data is analyzed, churned, and then we try to predict that with this kind of type of soil, with this type of water movement, probably, and with this type of utilization by the plant, probably you need to irrigate after 3rd day or 4th day. So this is the way we predict for next 7 days of irrigation. And if there is a rainfall possibility, that also we indicate that after 3rd day there is a possibility of rainfall. So farmer get an insight for irrigation application that when he shall irrigate and how much he shall irrigate using this kind of IoT based solutions. Then there is another solution which is called as monitoring solution. So sometimes farmers do not, as I said, do not want to put expensive automated irrigation controls in his field. Still, he wants to monitor what is happening in the field. So you can put some pressure sensors or flow sensors, because for any irrigation system, there are only two health indicators. There are irrigation, there are flow and the pressure. So health of any irrigation system can be analyzed using the trades of pressure and flow. So you can put some pressure sensors and flow sensors, and you can analyze that whether the pressure is going beyond some given the limit, or it is touching the thresholds, something like that. So you can analyze this data, which is called as monitoring solution. So at this moment, monitoring solution has just started in India. It's not much, but in the areas like in country like Israel, in country like United States, these monitoring solutions are very much popular, because in those countries liability is a major issue. You know, if you want to control farmers' field or walls based on some soil moisture data or something like that, that means you are taking the liability responsibility, and then responsibility in India is still very dilute, but responsibility or liability in United States is very strict. He has to face the lawsuits if it is not really operating as per the given requirements. So this is how the monitoring solution can also work in IoT platform. Now, when we talk about the IoT, utilization of IoT in agriculture, what are the challenges which we may probably face? Yesterday also it is discussed that power is one of the major threat for IoT devices to be used in them, because it is a remote area. There is no power availability. So you need to depend on the solar power or non-rechargeable batteries and other things. As I explained, we use solar power, but then we face the theft issue. So we come up with another solution now, which is not shown here, but we come up with LoRa, and which is with the non-rechargeable batteries, which will last long, therefore, 5 years or something like that. So I don't want to get into details of those LoRa and all those things. Yesterday we discussed about LoRa, but then power is a major threat. So power efficiency is one of the major things. And when we talk about putting some analog sensors are power hungry sensors. They always requires powers. And if you want your RTU to be real time, after every second it shall send the data, then it will definitely requires a very high power. So it is a major decision when you employ this IoT in the field for agriculture, that how much time you can put this RTU in sleep mode. Whether you want to really go for analog sensors or even simple digital sensors can do the work. So these are the decisions. Then prices of the sensors, because IoT stands with the sensor. You need to have sensors to take the data. But prices of the sensors, most of the sensors which are used in agriculture are still very expensive. So price, because they are imported. There are very few manufacturers. Like take an example of soil moisture sensor. So there is no reliable soil moisture sensors available in India at this moment. Yes, some people are working on it, but still, or some universities are also working on it. But at this moment, it is not. And even the price is an inhibiting factor. Then communication. Either you can go with the GSM communication from every wall or every RTU to the master station or to the server, or you can go with the methodology like RF. Like if you decide to, because GSM putting SIM card to each and every RTU may not be possible or feasible or maybe costlier. Even though the data rates are coming down, still you need to pay about 50 rupees or 60 rupees per GB of data. So that is a cost still. So if you are employing hundreds of thousands of watts, you cannot really go for. Then RF is the method of communication. So at this moment, as we are using the free band available in India, which is 865 to 861 megahertz, but then RF has its own issues. Like it's in a remote area, so clear line of sight availability is one of the major requirement. But in remote areas, there are big trees available. There are undulations or hilly areas, some nalas going in between. So line of sight availability is an issue. So then you need to put some repeaters in between. And then again, the second thing is you are working with the agriculture. So soil is moist most of the time. You have green cover, which is NEB for RF, radio communication. So it absorbs the radio frequencies, the radio waves. and sometimes the signal gets cut. We are facing these issues, like the site which I have shown in Kaneri. When the sugarcane was small, it was working very well. But as soon as the sugarcane is now 4 meter high, and our RTU is also 4 meter high, we are facing the problem of communication. Now we need to increase the height of the RTU. So these are the issues which probably you need to face with the RF. Second thing is the free band available 865 to 867 megahertz. You know, for the remote areas, in agricultural areas where you have to communicate for several kilometers, we need to have a separate frequency for the radio or RF frequency specifically allocated for agriculture. Maybe around 433 or 400 to 500 megahertz, which can go for longer length, so that you can reduce down on the number of RTUs. So that is very much required at this moment. Then theft and vandalism, as I explained, is the major theft at this moment in India. You can see this picture. You can see a fencing wire, put across this pole. This is just to avoid the theft of the pole and theft of the RTUs. So these are the things which will happen in India, and we shall be ready for this. So with our new RTUs, we have with the LoRa-based RTU, we are putting it under the ground. I don't know whether still there will be a theft or not, but we are trying to avoid that. But then that becomes a major development challenge. Then another very important issue with this IoT-based solutions is accessibility. You have developed some solution. Is it accessible to the farmers, all the farmers? Scalability, is it scalable to entire country? Because India is a diversified country. The crop geometry changes, language changes, the mentality, the physical, the agronomical practices changes. So one solution which is good for Maharashtra may not be good for even the same crop in Uttar Pradesh, may not good for similar crop in Andhra Pradesh. So that scalability shall also be considered. That is also very important. Reliability is also important, because if your solution is not reliable, if I am giving some data on the basis of soil moisture, and if my analysis is not good, then farmer, he goes on trust. Farmer don't go on the, when you click and agree, and then it is not like legal condition, agreed terms and condition. He mostly goes on trust, and if trust is broken, then the system or the solution may not be reliable for him. And most of the IT people, maybe from electronics or from IT background, the technology people rather, they do not have touch with the agriculture or the deep touch with the agriculture. So they develop some good solution, very good technologically advanced solution, but may not be adaptable by the farmers, or farmer do not feel it as a reliable solution. And so these solutions are like half-baked food, which is of no use. And then liability also plays a very important issue, because if your solution has not worked properly, are you going to take the responsibility of the farmer's crop if he could not irrigate according to he has suggested him for some irrigation schedule, and he could not get the crop yield according to, then are you taking that liability? Probably no, nobody, because it's a very general terms and condition, warranty and everything. So everybody wants to escape from the legal liabilities. But then surely at one point of time, the solution shall be robust enough, sturdy enough, reliable enough, so that even the solution provider shall be able to take the liability of this solution. So there shall be also the gap between technologists and users. As I said, there is a capacity building requirement, so that this gap is reduced down to an extent. So these are the challenges which the IoT solutions are facing. So there is very well-known saying that we are drowning in information while starving for the wisdom, and this is very true at this moment. With the IoT-based solutions, we are getting a lot of information, a lot of sensor data from all the sides, but are we really coming to a solution to provide the insight to the farmers? Can we really get into the wisdom or knowledge out of it? That is very important. And the entire IoT infrastructure or the solutions of IoT based on what kind of wisdom you can provide out of the information which you are getting in. So this is very important. So with this, I will end my presentation. Thank you very much. I'm open for the questions. Please go on for the questions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I will take some of the questions asked by the participants. So there is one question by Mr. Kishore that is the system monitoring of health of soil, that is NPK level in soil, is possible?
Yes, up to certain level, like nitrogen is definitely possible. So there are some people who are working on it. We are also working with some European universities. Its name is it's in France, and then we are working for nano sensors, which will like give us some fertilizer or nutrients availability in the source water. Soil, yes, so through some satellite imageries, you can analyze the nitrogen and phosphorus up to some extent, but reliability is still a question mark. I'm not very sure how much reliable those solutions are, but those solutions are available at this moment.
Thank you, sir. I request all the participants, if you have any questions, please raise their hands. Yeah, Dr. Ram Dekekar, sir. Sir, please unmute yourself.
Okay. Sir, my question is related to the sensors. What is the reliability, I mean failure rate, or the calibration is required, frequent calibration is required or not?
So are you specifically asking about some specific sensor like soil moisture or something?
No, any kind of sensor.
So yes, surely reliability is a major thing, and usually whenever you get the sensors, they are factory calibrated, and there are calibration facilities available. Like if you are going with the pressure sensors, you can set the pressure. I know frequently you need to go for calibration, like the pressure sensors which we have put in this large area, Ramthal project. We have a portable device with a master pressure gauge. We go there, we connect the pressure sensors, we try to calibrate. So calibration is done on the pressure sensor side, or you can calibrate on the data which you get. Mostly these sensors are 4 to 20 milliampere analog sensors. So whenever you get that sensor data, and if you feel that there is an error, and you know that there is an error, so that error can be minimized by changing the calibration. Like say for 4 milliampere, if I'm saying 0 pressure, and say 6 milliampere maybe for say stands for 2 kilogram per centimeter square pressure. Instead of 2, I will start, I will change the linearity of those to calibrate it. So calibration is possible.
Okay, sir. Sir, second question is, how much distance you are monitoring these things?
I was audible because there was some internet connectivity issues.
Yes, you are audible. Sir, are you monitoring these things from Jalgaon only?
You can, yeah, our monitoring station is in Jalgaon, but it's an external access, internet access. You can monitor from anywhere. Several such projects are going on, so we monitor. We have monitoring people here, so they continuously monitor the system. So if they observe any fault, they immediately contact the field people to ask him to go there, check.
So, are you giving training to the farmers for this thing, to involve the farmer in the system? So, are you giving trainings to the farmers?
Yes, actually, that is that is a mandatory part of the project. All these new projects coming up in India, the contractor or the bidder has to provide 5 years of operation and maintenance and capacity building to the users. So within this, like like a Jain Irrigation has developed Water User Association, and each of the Water User Association we are giving training in 2 folds, or rather 3 folds. One is agronomical trainings, like how to grow the crops, which crop and agronomical practices and all. Then system maintenance training, irrigation system training, and then we select few of them, not all of them, for this software handling training. because he shall be to handle this kind of software. At least he should know English. He should know some little bit of background of computer and something. So we are selecting such people, and we are doing the handholding for them. So after the end of 5th year, like this, typically the Ramthal project is 5 years operation and maintenance. Probably the next year is the 5th year. So we will be handing over the entire system to the water user associations, and it is expected that they will operate the projects. So projects which we have already handed over, like one project in Himachal Pradesh, we already handed over. There, it was not water user association structure, but the government itself will be handling it, and the government is able to handle it very easily. This is the new experience for us, and we hope that this water association can handle this project, and that is what the PPP model is. Ultimately it has to be handed over to the public.
Thank you, sir. Now I request Dr. Anup Vibhute sir to unmute yourself.
Sir, is there any water metering system?
Yes. What are you talking about? The drinking water supply or general water metering system?
Both, for both.
Okay. Yes. I will talk about drinking water supply actually, because the project, this today's scope is agriculture, so I have not touched upon that. But in drinking water supply, we have developed a software called Water Care, as in ERICare, wherein nowadays this under Amrut scheme there are 24/7 watering applications are going on. So there are ultrasonic or manually operated the water meters are there. So this water meter can send the data in different ways. Like typically in drinking water sector, it is called as like somebody with a RFID device will go in the mohalla in that area, get connected to all the device, download the data, the water consumption data, and can then transfer this data to the server, and then the billings and everything will be done. There is a manual method also. So instead of going, some municipalities don't go for ultrasonic water meters. So the person has to go note down the reading, as in electrical meters, take the photographs, note down the reading, and can be done. And there are it is called as, and there is another method, it is called as AMI, is internet based. So all the water meters are connected to the servers through the internet, wherein user can see, even user can see what is the water consumption and all. Now water metering system for the field level is also available. It is a very simple system. At this moment we have a Bluetooth based water metering system, in which a water meter is connected to a Bluetooth device. User, and there is an application on the user's mobile app. User can go to the Bluetooth area, like near to the device, can download the data once in a month or something like that, and can see what is the trend, flow rate and all these things. So those kind of water metering systems are also available.
Is it available with you?
Yes. Yes. But it is available for digital sensors at this moment. So water meters are digital sensors. They are pulse type, not available for analog type of water meters or flow sensors.
Thank you, sir. Now I request Nitin Mavde sir to unmute yourself and ask your query.
Okay, thank you, sir. So this is Professor Nitin Mavde from AISMS College of Engineering, Pune. This is a somewhat question related with students. Is there any students involved in your project? Is there any facility for students to get an internship at your project?
Yes, actually, this typical project of ERICare software development and other things, these are commercial projects where we have not involved any student in this, but students are certainly, coming here. I don't know in this pandemic situation whether management allows any third person to, because visitors are not allowed, but certainly internship is very much available. Many students from many other areas, mostly from agricultural colleges, comes down here for internship. One of the PhD students whom I have guided, he was from Punjab Agriculture University. He has done his PhD on this automation systems only.
As an engineering student, most of the IoT projects this will be handled by engineering students. So, is there any scope for engineering students in future?
Yes, surely. Yes, there is a big scope for this. Like if he is interested in machine learning algorithms and something like that, then there is a big scope because data can be collected through the sensors, but then analysis, providing right insights. Only thing is he shall have some feeling at least about the agriculture, knowledge about the agriculture.
Okay. And the last question is, what you are doing for the signal conditioning in your project? Who will take care of signal conditioning part as R&D?
See, and that I talked about it, like we are using free band availability. Like in India, the free band is 865 to 867. Every country has its own free band. India has 865 to 867 megahertz. Like in US, it is 915 megahertz. So in free band and within a given power requirement, you can use it freely. But if you want to use a specified frequency, suppose I want to go for 400 megahertz, there are certain frequencies below 150 megahertz you cannot go. It is specially reserved for defense purpose. But beyond that, like if you want to go for 400 megahertz, then you need to go for frequency application. That is quite a long and expensive process at this moment. You need to test your devices for radiations and all those things, get the test certifications, and then there is a wireless planning commission. You have to approach the wireless planning commission for that, and then analyze, and then it's a long process and expensive process as well. But you can certainly get, if you really need a frequency, specified frequency, you can get it through those channels.
Thank you, sir, for giving the answers to all the queries. Now we'll stop here. So I thanks Mr. Abhijit Joshi, sir, for giving a very good example of real life IoT implementation of for agriculture application. And
Hello.
That is what the Jain Irrigation is doing for the, that is important thing, the resource to root. So,
sir, can I ask one question?
Yeah, please go on.
Go on, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, sir, just want to ask, like the resources available regarding IoT in agriculture, if you can refer some of the resources, websites from where we can take help regarding the project websites or whatever you found useful till today.
There are several.
If you can refer some of the sites where we can check with the IoT in agriculture, like which you have found useful.
You can do one thing. You can drop me your email ID. I can send you the references, because it's a long list. Even I don't have it in at this moment in my knowledge. Because the best thing is, like yesterday also, Sam Koshi answered about someone from civil engineering was asking about getting into IoT. Yeah. The best thing is there are several sectors, like there are you need to know about the radio communication, you need to be knowledgeable about the sensor itself. There are several type of sensor. Then you need to have knowledge about the programming or embedded programming, MBC embedded, firmware development, hardware development, communication with the server management. So there are several parts of it. So you won't get anything accumulated at one point, at one website. There are several websites which refers to several of these aspects. So I can send you the list of several of these aspects and several websites which you can refer and I can go through. But one thing is very important. Like I can also say that I am also a civil engineer. Yesterday also there was a civil engineer who was asking this question, and Sam rightly said that the logical requirement or the knowledge domain is very much important. Otherwise, all these things are the hardware. Putting a sensor, getting a data, and using some software platform to analyze it is a hardware. But what to do, how to do, you need to have that agronomical knowledge, agricultural knowledge, and the basic domain knowledge is very important. So that domain knowledge is to be it is to be gained by yourself only, in your subject knowledge only.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, can you put your email ID and mobile number in the chat box?
Singh, sir, I will share the email ID of resource persons to everyone.
Okay. By mail, sir?
I'll share that one, sir. Hello. Sir,
Will it
yeah.
be done by mail?
Sir, I will share as a
Yes.
coordinator. I will share. Yeah.
Okay, sir. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
So I thanks our today's expert, Mr. Abhijit Joshi, for his today's session on resource to root and giving a best example of implementation of IoT for the agriculture application. I thanks Mr. Abhijit Joshi for from his very busy schedule. He has taken a time and given a very details about the implementation of IoT and how we can, as a researchers, as academicians, and as a students, how we can implement this technology, that is the resources at the root level. So I thanks Doshi sir for being with us. Thank you, sir.
You are welcome, sir. You are welcome, and I thank you all the participants and especially Sri Shanta Gajanan Maharaj College of Engineering for giving me this opportunity. Thank you very
sir.
much.
Thank you very much, sir. So,
thank you, sir.
With the permission, now we would like to end this session. So there will be a break of now next 15 minutes, and we will join at 3:15. Thank you all.